Hey guys, welcome back to Matthew's Ballistics. Today I'm finally getting to retry my test with the monolithic solid copper round that I hand turned down from some 1/4-inch bar stock copper. You remember in the previous videos I had a little bit of an issue with it fitting, I had sized it perfectly to 0.224 inches, but then I went ahead and I measured and rechecked my Hornady bullets, that I bought from Hornady, and the 55 grain F&Js that I had from them actually measured 0.223. Someone measured 0.2235. So I went ahead and took a little more off of that bullet, got it down right at 0.223, and that ended up resulting in, it started out at 56 grains and now it's down to like 54 and a half, or about 54 and a half grains, so a little bit lighter. Also, when I did the reload on it, I rechecked the brass and retrimmed the piece of brass that I'm going to use to make sure that there's no chambering issues, and I got it all lined out. And apparently one of my issues I was having before was when I was trimming the brass, my trimmer had gotten a little bit off, and the brass was actually about 3/1000ths too long, or so, about 2 to 3/1000ths too long to fit in the chamber. So that was part of my problem. The second part, I don't know, was I guess when I seated the bullet and crimped it, because it was exactly 0.224 in diameter, the neck of the case around that bullet was just slightly too big to fit in the chamber, so it didn't chamber fully. But now I've worked that issue out and I've got it all lined out, and it's going to work out fine today. Pretty excited. It's going to be pretty cool, and that's what we're here for. Also, not terrible, could be better. But now I'm going to shoot the one solid copper bullet and see if I can hit this new target with it. Make sure it locks up good. And it did this one I kind of downloaded it just a little bit. I think I loaded it at 20 grains and not 21. So just an extra little bit of a safety precaution, I guess. But when I reloaded this, I had to turn it some more, just a little bit. So it's now actually down to 54 and a half grains from 56 grains. And then I'm using about 1 grain less powder, so let's see what happens. Well, 2,824 feet per second, and not nearly as loud as the other rounds. Yeah. Alright, so the accuracy on it was a little off. You can see it hit right there, but it went perfectly straight through the target. There's no signs of it keyholing or anything, which is great. But I guess it hit a block of wood behind the target, and then it impacted the metal backstop sideways. So this is that solid copper bullet, and you can still see the rifling on it, which is freaking awesome, but it just pancaked. It's super thin, almost like a knife blade on. But I just thought that was super cool. Alright guys, so now I'm back on my way to the house. As you can tell, my copper bullet did far better than I expected it to, and looking at the target, it really surprised me that it actually didn't tumble, and it didn't yaw, and it didn't impact the target, sideways or anything. There was no tumbling or keyholing. It did get deflected off of a piece of wood, so when it hit that steel back plate, it hit it at an angle almost sideways, so it just kind of pancaked that copper bullet out. It's really cool. You can still see the detail of my sandpaper by hand sanding it and all that stuff, and the detail of the rifling on it's awesome. The detail on the very nose of the bullet, the knee plat, as it's called, of where I had used a file on it, is still there. So even hitting the block of wood, hitting something soft like that, it didn't deform it in any way. It only deformed it, well, it deflected it, but it only deformed when it hit that steel backstop, and it just kind of fell to the ground there. Now, it was important to note that I loaded that one quite a bit lighter. I took 1 grain less powder, dropped it from 21 grains to 20 grains in that load, with a 54.5 grain solid copper bullet. It chronographed at 2,824 feet per second. Now my regular 55 grain FMJs that I had loaded with the same powder at 21 grains, they were chronographing at 3,030 feet per second. So I lost right at 200 feet per second by taking 1 grain less powder, which I thought was interesting. That was pretty interesting. So at least, and it actually hit the target. I was really surprised there. It actually hit the target. I mean, it wasn't super pinpoint accurate. It didn't drill the bullseye. Actually, it was about, I was low left by about, I want to say 3.5 inches or so, 4 inches maybe. So I didn't have any copies of it. I didn't have any, more than one of those to test. I wish I'd have had about 5 of them to test, and that way I could have, compared them and seen that, okay, well, maybe they're just all not that accurate and they're all about 4 inches from the center, or maybe it was just that one bullet that did that, and the other 3 or 4 or whatever hit close to center. I don't know. So it's one of those things that I may work on later, but that one bullet took me about 3 hours of work by hand, and basically I just eyeballed the whole thing. The only thing that was that helped me out, I guess, shaping it from the beginning, was that I used roundbar stock, and it was already 0.250 inches in diameter, and all I had to do was take it down to 0.224, or actually ended up a little less than that at 0.223 inches. So the only difficult part was to actually turning the nose of the bullet and shaping the nose of it, and that part took a while. And I initially used 80 grit sandpaper and a file to get the shape down and actually get the size of it down, and then from there I used 1,000 grit and 2,000 grit wet sandpaper on it. But yeah, altogether it took about 3 hours of work to get that where I wanted it to be. So I think that project was a success. Was it stupid accurate or super accurate or anything? No. I mean, it's like probably a minute of deer bullet. I don't know how repeatable that is. Hopefully I'll get some time to make a couple more, and then we'll, and load them up and test those as well. But I mean, just for the pure fact that I did that by hand with very, very minimal tools, just proves the point that I wanted to make, is that, you know, if you had to have a bullet, there's more than one way to skin a cat. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could mold a bullet, you can cast a bullet, you can turn a bullet from a solid piece of metal by hand. As long as you got sandpaper or a file and you've got a drill and you've got a round piece of bar stock, you can turn a bullet from it and by hand, and it will work, at least at 40 yards, which is what I was shooting today. To me, if I shot a deer with it at 40 yards, it was accurate enough that it would have put the deer down. So that's just all it comes down to, is it worked, and I'm really happy with that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to be bringing you some more cool content. I did some homemade black powder testing today too. I actually loaded some in a 9mm, which was hilarious. Like, it worked, but it's just kind of dumb, and it was just a funny experiment. The idea of it's way scarier than it turned out to be. I'll let you know that with stuffing the case full of powder and shoving a 115 grain FMJ on top of it and pressing it in and compressing the load, I ended up with about a 400 foot per second round with like 13 grains of powder in that 9mm case. So anyways, I'm going to try to get it to where I got to do some tweaking on my gunpowder and refine it to where it burns a little hotter, and hopefully get a round that will actually cycle in the 9mm, which would be super cool. But that's an experiment for a later video. So anyways, I hope you guys really enjoyed this, and hope you guys stuck with me to the end of this video. If you did, and if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe and like and share this video if you want to see more content, or if you know somebody that would like to see this kind of content, send it to them, share it to them. You know, I mean, I like and enjoy doing these projects, and you know, it's what I do in my free time at home, and it's just fun for me to do. So anyways, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.